Hi everyone, welcome to Life on the Hulls. I'm back on the mould, however, for the next few weeks while I knock off this large dinette module. This is a massive module. It's essentially the size of a trailer sailor on its own with the amount of surface area, so plenty of work there, and I've been over the last couple of weeks, I've been polishing that up and now I've started to really get into the laminating. I'm about to start spraying up. It's hotting up here in Oz. We're in the 40s today. I'm in my wet room here with an air conditioner, to be honest. That's the only way I can control the resin catalyzing, and I can really control that humidity as well. Very, very important when you're laminating, and don't let anyone tell you it's not. It's so important. If you're laminating in high humidity, you're wasting your time. You're not getting the catalyst working properly. This week, I'm going to get rid of those gussets. They've got to go, all those lifting gussets. And I'm going to do a bit of a repair where I mounted the engine gussets. I'm going to glue in the part that I actually cut out for those gussets and do some restorative work on those as well. Lots coming up. About to flip the deck mold over in the coming weeks. So once that's over, that's going to be an intense period for me because I've got to repair the mold, I've got to restore the mold, I have to gel coat the mold, I've got to laminate the mold, and ultimately produce a deck for a 40-foot catamaran. That's going to be around about a 3-month process, so lots to do, and it's going to really take up a lot of my time. Thanks for watching, and honestly the response I've had over the last couple of videos has been huge. I'm going to have a competition, and what I'd like to do is throw it out there. I want to have a guessing competition as to the weight of our hull that was demolded. I've had a lot of questions saying, how heavy was it? Did you get a rough weight? I have got a pretty accurate weight we got off the Franner when we had it in mid-air. So what I'd like to do is throw it out there and have a guessing competition. You have to be a subscriber to actually answer it, and I'd like you to all to have a guess. Now, I'd like the guesses, if possible, to be in kilograms, preferably not pounds, because you know, guys over here, we don't use that stuff anymore, and yeah, so if you can guess it in kilograms, if not, I'll convert it to pounds, but back to kilos. But please make it a guess. What's up for grabs is a Life on the Hulls mug and a t-shirt, so go for it, guys. I'd like you to do it this week, and in 2 weeks time I'm going to announce the winner, and you must comment, you must be a subscriber, you got to like the video, and you must comment to win. Now, I'll post it anywhere in the world, I don't care where you're from, I will make sure you get that, but you know, the guy who's the closest to it will get a mug and a t-shirt, and we'll go from there. So I deliberated for weeks about whether or not to cut out these gussets, and it came time to do it. It was like a snowstorm in here. I began with my oscillating tool and started to chip away at the plywood gussets that I'd actually mounted in there, and soon realised that just wasn't going to cut it. It ended up being a flat disc and a diamond wheel grinder was the only way I was going to remove these quite substantial gussets. The reason why I deliberated about removing them was I thought maybe if I ever need to lift the hull again, but that's actually never going to happen. I will always be able to drive this now, and in fact put slings around the outer hull. It was only really because of the mould that I needed them, but the mess that I ended up in was something terrible. The dust lingered for days in the hull, and just the amount of waste that I put away was just ridiculous. And I vacuumed the hull at least 3 times a day for the last couple of days that took me to cut it away, and honestly I feel for anyone that has to grind fiberglass. It's been some time since I've had to do it, and it was a pretty miserable experience. I had the itches even though I was wearing a suit. Everything I had was covered in this stuff, and basically luckily I wear good PPE because without it, honestly, I would have just driven me mad. You can see here by the thickness of the laminates on that gusset that there was no way that was going to give. I put my full faith in them, and that paid off. Who'd have thought it would take me 2.5 hours to cut out these mounts, these demoulding mounts. Never ever throw anything away because I've saved this. This is the panel that came out of it. Now, rather than lay up a repair piece there, I'm going to refit this back in place. So what I've done is I've actually dremeled along the edge here to create a V shape that I'm going to then be able to do some repairs. So what I'm planning to do is, with some composite angle down in here, is to reform the shape with some composite angle just around the lip, and then put the piece back in place like so. That's the whole advantage of fiberglasses and steels. Generally, you can do a repair without having to make it look like it ever happened before. So that'll all be fed back in, all tied back in, and polished up, and it's like I never had those mounts there. So pretty happy with that. It's pretty important never to throw bits away. Even more important, don't throw away the little Parsons nosy that fitted in here, where I had to cut it out for that gusset. So pretty important that you keep your little pieces. That could easily have ended up in the bin. Okay, so I've loaded this up, but technically I'm going to stick it in here, and then I'm going to have to put a couple of screws in this. It's the only way I can hold it in place. It's a bit of a tight squeeze to get it in there. But I'll just have to repair these holes. But it's the only way to do it. Exactly. Beautiful. We're good to go. So this will now be fed back in. I'm going to create a V here, with which I can fill, and then I'll put gel coat in, polish it all back. So it's about 4 weeks after demoulding, and look, I'm so happy with the result. Now, I do have some blemishes. A lot of that would have resulted where maybe I couldn't get far enough away from the surface of the mould as I was spraying it, and didn't quite catalyse, or where the gel coat may have been a little bit thin, and that's going to require some spot fixing. So I'm going to work on that now. I've basically got some nice little spots here, particularly along here, and a couple of the places, or most of the blemishes are actually below the waterline. They're only tiny little, what we call tripe or alligatoring, and generally that's caused from lack of catalyst or from too thin a gel coat. But in this case, below the waterline, the majority of the blemishes are actually along the line that I'd masked. Now I had 2 layers of masking tape along the floor with a plastic bag liner, so I could walk along that while I was spraying it up. And when that's removed, clearly there was residue, something there that has reacted with the catalyst. Now I'm only talking about tiny little spots like this, but they are along a defined line. There's a couple of other little spots here, as you can see along here, and I'll just get you in nice and close. Along here, there was a tiny little bit of alligatoring along here. So I've just got my Dremel with the rotary sander, and I've actually sanded a little V here, and I'm just going to patch it up with gel coat. These repairs are quite simple. They're a bit annoying, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, where there's 180 kilos of gel coat, to get like 4 or 5 milliliters of gel coat blemish is not a bad result. There's other places I'll actually just show you now where I've put down where I've actually noticed there's blemishes. I'm going to just spot repair them all. Now below the waterline down here, below that chine there, is all going to be primed, covered in anti-foul in any case, but I'm going to get it back to square so that I can be proud of what I'm doing, and then I'll sand all of that off anyway, and get down to the anti-fouling. But yeah, there's quite a few spots. I'll show you another couple of spots here. This one here, this is a classic example of alligatoring, or what we call in Australia here, tripe. What it is basically where the catalyst hasn't quite catalysed, or the gel coat was a touch thin, and it might have been that I just didn't do a good pass on it. That's going to be sanded, just an orbital sander, and then I'll basically just spray up over this again. This here is a classic example of tripe where you've got way too much styrene mounting in one spot. But you know, over the whole course of the boat, bugger all. A couple of other little spots here, and what that was there, that's in fact where the high pressure air was injected in there, and I've got 3 or 4 of those and another couple along here. So you can see, and this area here is the mask line. So I had 3 layers of masking tape along here. Classic example of a residue of an adhesive reacting with the styrene. Easy fix, Dremel it out, fill it with gel coat, polish it back, job done. And you can see here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This tiny little spidering or alligatoring here. Easy fix, just get your Dremel, sand it back, create a V like I've done right here, and then ultimately fill it with gel coat or flow coat, set it off, come back, polish it out. Just want to show you a section here. You'll remember way back when I polished up the mould and was prepping it for gel coating, I installed a insert on the actual mould surface. Now this was actually in the original boat. They put a window here and a polycarbonate sort of blank of a window in the other side just to allow light into the bathroom on this side of the head, and on the other side was more light just to get into the actual into the wardrobe there. But I've put this insert in. It was actually melamine and I've plasticined it in. Now I'm having a bit of difficulty removing it. Now the long-term decision to put this in was a bit of a stupid one. I believe that any window below waterline, or sorry, above waterline in the bridge deck tunnel here of this boat is a foolish decision unless it's up under the bridge deck where it can be used as an escape hatch. I see a lot of boats with these windows here, and I wonder how long the durability of the leaking. Ultimately, we're going to end up with leakage in this area here, so I'm just going to leave it blank. But I do need to get this insert out, and it's been a bit of a problem because it was plasticined in. I released it with release wax, put heaps of release wax on it. I'm just going to have to chip away at it. I've put this bit of plywood on here to try and get some sort of purchase to pull it off. It is being a bit problematic to get out, but I'm going to keep working at it just with a screwdriver, eventually break it away until I can get under it and pull it off and reveal the insert. Now it is going to need a little bit of repair. There's already a couple of tiny little gel coat marks here where I've been trying to scribe away at it with a scraper to try to get all of the plasticine and the works out. There's a couple of little air bubbles here, but at the end of the day it's not really going to matter. Well, it certainly isn't pretty. I've hacked away at it just to get some leverage, and I've sort of had a little bit of relief, so I'm going to try to pull this out. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a lot of repairs. There you go. It was that simple in the end. Jesus. So this was screwed onto the mould, and yeah, that actually looks pretty fantastic. There's only a little bit of bubbling here, a little bit of gel coat where I've damaged it getting it out, but yeah, got it out. It's all about you know, using a couple of techniques. I use this here, this bit of wood here, wedge behind it, able to bang it out. It's off. Let's have a look. Here is a typical window insert. It's not that difficult. Simple gel coat repair. It's done. So I'll get onto that a bit later on. Right, it's Boxing Day. Mould Tour.
Mould Tour.
Oh, sorry.
Hull Tour.
Hull Tour.
Hull Tour.
Oh, we're in Brett's Defender. We're going on a safari. There's Ellen in the back. Zachariah. Mould Tour again. It's been 3 years since the last Mould Tour.
Do we scan in to get in with that?
You got to scan in. You got to scan in with your QR code to come to the mould.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the $15 each you've charged us for us to come and have a look at it.
Well, the guy across the road just said it was $10.
Yeah, John charges. John charges to look at my stuff.
Yeah, that's his commission.
We want to. Yeah, well, I was going to say we want to go see with him if it's only 10.
Right, so the plan was to flip that over as well on the same day, but we ran out of we actually ran out of time, and the wind was at 40 knots by the time we were about to flip that over. So, this is
engine that's going in it.
No.
This is going to be fantastic going in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a beauty. Yeah, that'll be a reconditioned generator.
Is that to run your toilet on there?
Might need it after this week with you guys here.
I've smelt you after you've been in the bathroom. That's not going to be enough.
So we weren't allowed to do carols up here this year because there's no chanting or singing allowed on the mould. Come on in, everyone. Welcome to my hull. It's pretty nice. Feel her.
Wow.
That's a bit, this over, feel it here. That's what it's all going to be like.
God.
It's pretty freaking amazing. Wow. There's a few blems. We've got a few along here.
This
This is
about Tinder.
So you feel this?
You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
That just polishes off.
Come down this way.
A couple of little blemishes here. So what I want to remind everybody before they see the blemishes is it's from here down, all gets sanded off and painted black with anti-foul. So it's only up what's up here is what's important. Wash your heads as you walk through.
I should have a big sign that just says...
Pretty amazing, eh?
Anti-foul.
See that big block?
Anti-fail.
Epic fail.
That's where it's stuck. This is where we start. Because that's nothing. Just stand on the side and look down the side, you'll see a profile of colour. From here, that's the water line. It's where the gun's probably 10 centimetres too close and hasn't had quite enough time to catalyse. But I'm not going to put an opening window because any water that's coming through here will eventually flood. It'll eventually leak. So I'm just going to have probably a perspex panel there, so when you're sitting on the toilet, you can watch out the window.
You can't fish.
The idea was to have the idea was to have an opening hatch so you can fish while you're having a poo, but I've decided not to. I shouldn't have put it in really because you see the other side how the 4 screws are there. Yeah. That's where I got ready to put another one. And if you look at down this side here,
this is a bathroom though. That's going to be a beautiful view from the
I can show you the bathroom in a minute.
Is that like the privilege shitter and this is like...
that's the ensuite. Yeah.
That's the shitter with a view.
Welcome to Australia.
There's a little bit of a blend here. So I've got a
1 hour job.
oh, the whole lot of it 2 hours. And this here doesn't matter. I just see that. Well, that's basically black anti-foul from there. In the mould there, where I cut the mould in half, and it's almost fair. Yeah, it's almost fair, but I've got a couple of little blemishes I've got to fix, but they're nothing. Watch your scale. Yeah. So I've had to empty everything out of this. All the fake walls I've made. Yeah, I'll try to do it. So I have to get this out.